Next question on Korea. I don't know. Is it maybe you go on Korea?
I'm happy to take Korea. Yes, Korea has a similar situation as Japan, actually, with a lot of coal in the pipeline, even still building new coal-fired power plants. And also there, the main issue is to find a good plan to move out of coal and to reform the energy sector completely towards renewables. And that is, I think, one of the main criticisms here in the Climate Change Performance Index, that is not on track yet, and that is something that still has to happen. Another question was on Brazil. Brazil is a very particular country which already has in the electricity mix a lot of renewables, a lot of hydro, one of the highest in the world. And since we look at the past trends and the current status, that is something that is beneficial to Brazil, but it really comes more from historical reasons. The emissions are still high, and in particular, the climate policy is ranked very bad and very low. Currently, there's not that much happening to support more renewables, and in particular, deforestation is high than ever, which is a very bad sign, not only for Brazil, but for the whole world. And with that all together, they get a medium rank of 33.
Yeah, but they lost also 8 ranks, so which is mainly due to policies. And if these policies evaluation, we always see that if you have negative policy evaluation, you normally also will fall down the next year again, because this has an impact also on the other data. So I expect, if nothing changes, I don't expect Brazil to be better. I expect them to be even worse last year. And then next year, and maybe to have one sentence, we have this brochure you all maybe can get and access to, and on the website ccpi.org we have all countries included. Here there are just a few because we don't have so much space, but on the country page of the ccpi.org you will also find country text for Spain, and for all the other 61 countries we have like half pages that explains why a country is where.
Thank you, Jan. And we had another question here in front in the middle, and then to the right.
Hi, Julian Wettengel, Clean Energy Wire. Könnten Sie ein paar Worte zu Deutsch? Could you lose a few words on Germany? Sorry. Say a few words about Germany. You said it's mostly about implemented policy or current policy. Germany made new promises earlier this year. Are those taken into account at all? Why is Germany green and has moved up 6 ranks?
Mm-hmm. Ireland, which was seen as making some modest progress in last year's announcement, is now down 7 points. Is that Ireland's agri sector, or what other factors could there be there?
Mm-hmm. That was
There's another one, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Werner Patrote, Tageszeitung. 2 questions, actually. One is, you rated 64 countries, so you didn't rate more than 100. I was wondering, and if you look at the map, you see that almost all of Africa is not rated. If you rated them, would you have 100 countries that are in the dark green, or is it just a hypothetical question that you couldn't answer? And the second question would be, what are the lessons learned here from this index? So what makes a country move up or down the scales? What could a country do? I mean, you've been doing this now for 17 years, so you should have some experience. What is it? What would be the easiest thing for countries to look good in your rating? Thanks.
Interesting questions. Thanks. Should we start with Germany?
Yeah, I'm going to start with Germany. Well, yeah, Germany climbed up 6 ranks this year. This has mainly to do with very relatively sharp decrease in its emissions in 2019. Germany closed down a few coal power plants in 2019, and we see that reduced its emissions about 50 million tons from 2018 to 19, and this can be seen. And the second reason is that the NDC was updated after the court obliged Germany to doing that, and so we increased the target to Germany increased the targets to minus 65%, and of course this is also rated in the index. But yeah, this is like in the moment it's like an unpaid check, I would say. If the new government will not act quickly to implement these targets, because in the moment we see with the most recent policies, we would not, in Germany, we would not even meet the old targets of minus 55%. We would have something like 50% with the existing reduction with this existing policies. So really clear that the new government has to act quickly if they want to climb up or even hold this good position in the CCPI. Maybe to...
Yeah, maybe I can take the Ireland question. Yes, indeed, Ireland is rated a bit lower. It's on 46 right now, and the main issue here is the climate policy lacking a little bit. There's plans, but the plans have not been fully implemented yet. This is at least one thing that the climate policy experts had been criticizing. Then there was a question on the remaining, 190 minus 60 countries. So quite a lot of countries we have not looked at. And indeed, looking at 60 is already a challenge, but looking at 190 is very complicated. I cannot say whether we would find others that would make it under 1, 2, and 3, but I would doubt it, actually. Because as we know, reducing greenhouse gas emissions to 0 in line with the 1.5 goal is a huge challenge. We need to halve global emissions in the next 10 years if we want to be on a pathway towards that. And it will be very difficult and a large challenge for all countries, also those that we have not looked at, to do that, to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions, to halve them in the next 10 years. We covered all the main emitters. So they are not doing it. There may be a few small countries which are not covered, but also for them that will be a large challenge. And then the last question that you had on the lessons. What do you have to do to be well ranked here? And I have 2 lessons here. One is you have to have started early with it. We have the Scandinavian countries which have a long track record of supporting renewable energy, reducing energy use, and trying to implement climate policies, not one-off, but for a long period of time. And that pays off here. And the other lesson is you have to be good in all areas. It's not enough to come here to a COP and say, hey, we are phasing out coal, but you are not doing anything on buildings, for example. Or you say, we have great national climate policies, but you do nothing on the international level. Or you are good at renewables, but fail on energy efficiency. It's not good enough just to have one highlight in your climate policy. You have to do everything right. Reduce emissions in all sectors. Renewables, efficiency, have good international and national policies. Only then you make it. We have front runners in all of these categories. Some do individual things well, but no country does everything right. And that's the big challenge.
Maybe to add, what for me is really striking is that the high share of fossil fuel subsidies we see in a lot of these countries. So at least, for example, in Germany, we pay something like 40 billion a year for fossil fuel subsidies. So be coherent with your policies is one of the most important things, which is so important, because then you finance the good things on the one side and the bad things on the other side. This won't work. So really go for a stringent and coherent policy framework. Then it's not so difficult. We still have not much time, but we still have time to go for that. And so that's maybe one of the most important lessons I learned from the coherence of policy, of the policy framework.
Yeah, thank you very much. Are there further questions in the room? At the moment, I don't see any hands, so I would like to just say that I'm happy to hear both of you stressing also the importance of the phase-out of fossil fuels, and I think it's quite exciting to, for the first time, really listening to a COP discussion which is considering mentioning the phase-out of fossil fuels also in the cover decision that could actually make a difference also when we talk about the 1 degrees Paris temperature target. applying policy coherence and actually breaking it down, what some of the steps would mean to be taken. No further hands in the room? Yes? Please come in again.
2 minutes left. So.
2 minutes left, yes. But I think we will have time.
Because the ranking is kind of relative thing, right? So as I mentioned, I know we were still reducing a bit, like 2% down compared to 2018 and 2019. And I know because lots of people are watching this, so I need to make it clear because it's my job. We reduced this 6%, and some of them are because of pandemic, but some of them we are closing down our core of our plant, and I really hope we will have more further time to discussing about what Korea is doing right now. And so I'm just wondering, how do you manage all the different context of, because there are small countries with small heavy industries, but there's Japan, Korea, and has more bigger heavy industries. How do you managing these differences in context?
Well, I can try. Well, yeah, we have very different countries. That's for sure. That's correct. All of them have their different challenges and their different opportunities to solve the problem. We see countries with a high share of industry in the beginning and in the end of the ranking. So for me, there is a learning on needs to be done within this highly industrialized countries, needs to learn from each other who is doing what and what works and what works not. In the moment, there are some promising strategies on hydrogen, for example, which are opportunities for the industry sector to decarbonize that. But every sector needs to be decarbonized, and especially Korea, Japan, Germany needs to really think about their industry sector and what are the main solutions here. And the index is not. It doesn't go that deep. I have to say. So it's not an analysis of the different of the industry sector, for example. So if you want to compare that, you have to dive a bit deeper and see what are the stakeholders and the experts are asking from the government, because you have probably, as far as I know, you have a lot of brilliant experts in the country who knows how to do that. And you really need to find a way within your country to addressing the most carbon-intensive sectors.
Thanks for the good questions. Unfortunately, time is up. So we need to close here. Thanks to both of our panelists who will be available afterwards for further questions. And thanks for the engagement. Have a good day.